The day my husband left me, it wasn't raining. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes you realize your entire life is about to change forever. I was standing in our kitchen, stirring pasta for dinner, when Ethan walked in carrying 2 suitcases. At first, I thought he was leaving for another business trip. He traveled often. Nothing seemed unusual, until he looked at me without a single emotion. "We need to talk." Those 4 words instantly made my stomach sink. I turned off the stove. "What's wrong?" He took a deep breath. "I'm leaving." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I've fallen in love with someone else." Everything around me suddenly felt blurry. I laughed nervously. "This isn't funny. I'm serious." Then, the front door opened. A woman walked inside. My best friend, Jessica. The same woman who had celebrated birthdays with me. The same woman who helped me choose my wedding dress. The same woman I trusted with every secret. She couldn't even look me in the eyes. I felt like the room was spinning. "You." My voice cracked. Jessica whispered, "I'm sorry." Ethan stepped closer to her. "We didn't plan this. It just happened." I stared at both of them, because my brain refused to believe what my eyes were seeing. "So, my husband is leaving me for my best friend?" Neither of them answered. Silence was answer enough. Ethan picked up the last suitcase. "I'll have my lawyer contact you." Those were the last words he spoke before walking out of our home. Jessica followed him. She hesitated at the door for 1 second, then chose him over me. The door closed. And just like that, 8 years of marriage disappeared in less than 5 minutes. The divorce happened quickly. Ethan had prepared everything long before he told me. Every document, every account, every legal paper. He had planned his exit perfectly. By the time I realized what was happening, it was already over. The hardest part wasn't losing the house, or the money, or even the marriage. It was realizing that 2 people I loved had been lying to my face for months, maybe years. 3 weeks later, Jessica posted a picture online. She was wearing the necklace Ethan had once bought me for our anniversary. The caption read, "Sometimes true love finds you when you least expect it." Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments. I stared at my phone for several minutes. Then, I deleted every picture of them. Every message. Every memory. Not because I stopped loving them. Because I finally understood. Holding on to the past was only hurting me. For months, I barely left my apartment. Friends stopped calling. Some chose Ethan. Others didn't want to get involved. Loneliness became my new routine. One afternoon, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles, messy hair, lifeless eyes. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. Then I remembered something my late mother used to say. One betrayal can destroy your confidence, or build the strongest version of you. I whispered those words over and over, until I believed them. That evening, I opened my laptop. For years, I dreamed of starting my own luxury interior design company. But Ethan always laughed whenever I mentioned it. "You're creative," he'd say. "But business isn't for people like you." I believed him. Until now. This time, there was nobody left to ask permission from. The next morning, I registered my company. Hartwell Interiors. It wasn't much. A tiny rented office. 1 old laptop. 2 folding chairs. And exactly $8,000 left in my savings. Everyone told me I was making another mistake. One former coworker laughed. "You've already lost your husband. Now you're going to lose your savings too." I smiled politely. People had underestimated me my entire life. I worked 16-hour days. Answered my own emails. Some nights, I slept in the office because driving home felt like wasting time. Then, my first luxury client arrived. A retired hotel owner. She looked around my tiny office. "You built all this alone?" "Yes." She smiled. I like people who bet on themselves. She signed a contract worth $120,000. I almost cried after she left. Not because of the money, because for the first time since my divorce, Someone believed in me. Word spread quickly. One happy client became 5. 5 became 20. 20 became 50. Within 3 years, Hartwell Interiors became one of the fastest-growing luxury design firms in the state. We designed celebrity homes, luxury hotels, corporate headquarters. Business magazines started writing about my journey. Woman rebuilds her life after divorce. CEO turns heartbreak into million-dollar company. People called me inspirational. They had no idea how many nights I cried alone after work. Success doesn't erase pain. It simply teaches you how to carry it. 5 years later, I stepped out of my black SUV in front of our brand new headquarters, a 20-story glass building. My name was written beside the entrance. Hartwell Interiors. Over 700 employees worked there. As I walked inside, my assistant hurried toward me. Olivia, you have 2 unexpected visitors. Who? She hesitated, then quietly replied, Ethan and Jessica. I stopped walking. 5 years. Not a single phone call. Not a single apology. So why were they here now? I stood frozen. For a second, I wondered if I had heard my assistant correctly. Ethan and Jessica? She nodded. They're waiting in the reception area. I took a slow breath. 5 years. 5 years without a phone call. 5 years without a single apology. And now, they were standing inside my company. I straightened my blazer. Bring them to conference room A. When I entered the room, Ethan looked older. The expensive confidence he once carried had disappeared. Jessica avoided my eyes. She looked nervous. Neither of them resembled the couple who had proudly walked out of my house years ago. I sat across from them. So, what brings you here? Neither spoke immediately. Finally, Ethan cleared his throat. I heard your company is expanding. I smiled. It is. Jessica forced a small smile. We wanted to congratulate you. I leaned back. I don't think you came all this way just to say congratulations. The room fell silent. Then Ethan quietly admitted, we need jobs. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The 2 of you need jobs. He nodded. My business failed. Jessica looked down. The marketing agency where I worked shut down. We've been unemployed for months. For a moment, nobody spoke. The irony was impossible to ignore. 5 years ago, they believed I would fail. Today, Ethan slid 2 resumes across the table. I know this is awkward, but we're qualified. I'll work under anyone. Jessica quickly added. So will I. I slowly picked up the resumes. Their experience wasn't bad, but I wasn't reading their qualifications. I was remembering the night they destroyed my life. Ethan interrupted my thoughts. Olivia, I know I hurt you. I can't change the past, but people deserve second chances. I looked directly into his eyes. You didn't ask for a second chance when you left. You asked for a divorce. His face dropped. Jessica whispered, We've regretted it every day. I stayed silent. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about the meeting. Part of me wanted revenge. Another part remembered how hard life had been after they left. I didn't want to become bitter. The next morning, I called Human Resources. For both of them. My HR director looked surprised. You know them personally? Very personally. But they'll go through the exact same hiring process as everyone else. No special treatment.
No favoritism.
If they're good enough, they'll earn their place. A week later, both passed the interviews. Not because I helped them, because they actually had useful experience. Ethan joined the operations department. Jessica entered marketing. Neither reported directly to me. They started at entry-level management positions. Exactly like everyone else. The first few weeks were uncomfortable. Employees whispered. Some recognized Ethan as my ex-husband after reading old interviews online. Rumors spread quickly. One afternoon, I walked through the office floor. Everyone immediately became quiet. Ethan stood beside his desk pretending to work. He couldn't even look at me. I simply nodded and continued walking. Professional. Nothing more. Months passed. Business continued growing. One morning, our annual leadership conference arrived. Over 700 employees gathered in the auditorium. As CEO, I gave the opening speech. Standing on stage, I looked across the audience. There they were.
Ethan.
Jessica, sitting quietly among hundreds of employees. 5 years earlier, they thought I'd never build anything. Now, they were listening to my vision for the future. I smiled. When people underestimate you, don't waste your energy proving them wrong. Spend that energy becoming impossible to ignore. The audience applauded. I noticed Ethan quietly lower his head. Jessica knocked on my office door. Can we talk? I invited her inside. She closed the door behind her. Tears filled her eyes. I owe you an apology. I remained silent. She continued. I betrayed the only real friend I ever had. I thought choosing Ethan would make me happy. It didn't. I lost everything. My friends, my career, my self-respect, and, most importantly, I lost someone who truly cared about me. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, I answered. I forgave you a long time ago. She looked surprised. But forgiveness doesn't mean things go back to the way they were. She nodded slowly. I understand. As she reached the door, she quietly said, I'm genuinely proud of you. Then she left. For the first time in years, it actually sounded sincere. A month later, something unexpected happened. Our company received an anonymous complaint. Someone accused Ethan of manipulating purchase orders. Internal audit immediately launched an investigation. The evidence looked serious. Invoices, emails, financial approvals. Everything pointed toward Ethan. The board of directors demanded answers. My legal advisor asked, should we suspend him immediately? I looked at the documents. Something didn't feel right. 5 years ago, I had every reason to believe the worst about him. But leadership isn't about personal feelings. It's about facts. I quietly replied, no. Find the truth first. Because this time, I refused to judge someone without proof. The investigation lasted 2 weeks. Every invoice, every email, every financial record was examined. The board expected bad news. Most employees believed Ethan was guilty. Even Jessica looked terrified. Finally, our head of internal audit entered my office carrying a thick report. We found the truth. I opened the file. The anonymous complaint was fake. The emails had been edited. The invoices had been manipulated. Someone inside the company had deliberately framed Ethan. The real culprit wasn't Ethan. It was his direct supervisor, a manager named Richard. Richard had secretly been stealing money from vendors for nearly 3 years. When he realized an audit was coming, he tried to shift the blame onto Ethan, the newest manager. Security footage, bank transfers, computer logs. Everything pointed to Richard. Within hours, he was fired. The police arrested him before he could leave the building. That afternoon, Ethan knocked on my office door. You wanted to see me? I nodded. Seat. He looked nervous. I know everyone thought I was guilty. I slid the investigation report across the desk. You've been cleared. He slowly opened the report. As he read, his hands started shaking. You believed me? I answered honestly. No. I didn't believe you. But I also refused to judge you without evidence. He lowered his head. I didn't deserve that. Maybe not. But everyone deserves fairness. For the first time, I saw tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, Olivia. I know those words don't fix anything. But I've carried this guilt every single day. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. I quietly replied, I've already forgiven you. His eyes widened. But forgiveness doesn't mean I wish we were together again. It simply means I refuse to carry hate. He nodded. I understand. Weeks passed. Life returned to normal. Then, One Friday afternoon, Jessica requested another meeting. She looked healthier than before, more confident. She smiled nervously. I wanted to tell you something. What is it? I've decided to resign. I looked surprised. Why? She took a deep breath. Because I finally remembered who I was before I became someone I wasn't proud of. I've been accepted into a nonprofit organization that helps women rebuild their lives after divorce. She smiled. I think that's where I'm supposed to be. I stood up, then offered my hand. Congratulations. Instead, she hugged me. A quiet, respectful hug. Nothing more. As she walked away, I realized something. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't watching someone suffer. It's watching yourself become someone they can never hurt again. A year later, Hartwell Interiors had expanded into 5 states. More than 2,500 employees worked for the company. Business magazines ranked us among the fastest-growing design firms in America. One evening, I stood on stage accepting the National Entrepreneur of the Year award. Bright lights filled the room. Hundreds of business leaders applauded. The host smiled. Olivia, what advice would you give people rebuilding after betrayal? I looked across the audience, then answered slowly. Never let someone else's decision define your future. When people leave, let them. When people underestimate you, let them. When people betray you, learn. But never stop building your own life. The audience stood and applauded. After the ceremony, a young woman approached me. She couldn't have been older than 25. She looked nervous. Mrs. Hartwell, can I ask you something? Of course. My husband left me last month. I don't know how to start over. I smiled gently, then handed her my business card. She looked confused. The hardest step was surviving yesterday. Everything after that is rebuilding. She smiled through tears. Thank you. Watching her walk away, I saw myself from 5 years earlier. Broken. Lost. Certain life was over. If only she knew. Sometimes the worst chapter becomes the beginning of the best story. That night, I drove home alone. Not because I had nobody. Because I finally loved my own company. My phone buzzed. A news notification appeared. Hartwell Interiors named America's most trusted luxury design company. I smiled, then looked up at the stars. 5 years ago, I had cried myself to sleep wondering why everything had fallen apart. Now, I understood. If Ethan hadn't left, I might never have believed in myself. If Jessica hadn't betrayed me, I might never have found my purpose. Pain hadn't destroyed me. It introduced me to the strongest version of myself. As I walked toward my front door, I whispered one final sentence. Thank you. Not for loving me, but for leaving me, because the woman they abandoned built a life they could never imagine.